Zuleika was the kind of young woman people often overlooked. She didn't wear fancy clothes, didn't have shiny phones, and didn't care about selfies or city trends. Her hands were always stained red from pressing palm fruits, her clothes smelled like hard work, and her smile, though quiet, carried a kind of strength people couldn't fake. Every morning before the sun rose, Zuleika would be out with her basket, collecting palm nuts from the trees her late mother once tended. She would wash them, cook them, and press them into thick, golden red oil she sold at the market. People whispered that she was wasting her youth, that she'd never find a husband like that, but she didn't care. She believed in her hustle. Then one hot Saturday afternoon, the calm of the village was broken by loud music and the screech of tires. A black SUV, sleek like something from a music video, pulled up in front of the market. From it stepped Amara, Zuleika's cousin. They hadn't seen each other in years. Amara had moved to the city, and it was clear the city had changed her. Her hair was bone straight, her nails long and glossy, and her clothes sparkled even under the harsh sun. She walked like the ground was lucky to have her feet touch it, and when she saw Zuleika behind her small table of palm oil bottles, she burst into laughter that turned heads. "Zuleika," she said loud enough for the entire market to hear, "you're still here? Still playing village girl with oil stains on your dress? Oh my God, this is too funny." She pulled out her phone and started recording. "Guys, meet my cousin. She thinks selling palm oil is a career." Laughter erupted from some of the crowd. Others looked away, uncomfortable. Zuleika didn't say much. She just stood there, her hands steady, her eyes calm. She didn't flinch, didn't fight back, but inside her heart was burning. What Amara didn't notice was the tall man standing nearby. He wore dark sunglasses, a crisp white kaftan, and he said nothing. He had been watching Zuleika for a while, even before Amara arrived. He'd seen how she negotiated with customers respectfully, how she packed her goods neatly, how she treated everyone with kindness, even those who mocked her. That man was Chief Kwabena, a billionaire most people only read about in newspapers. He wasn't there for luxury or show. He was there looking for something real, something with heart. After Amara drove off, still laughing and blowing kisses to her online followers, Chief Kwabena walked up to Zuleika and bought 2 bottles of palm oil. "You make this yourself?" he asked softly. "Yes," Zuleika said. "Every batch." He nodded, thanked her, and walked away, without another word. Zuleika didn't think much of it. To her, he was just another customer. But what she didn't know was that her life was about to change in ways she could never imagine, because sometimes the universe hides your breakthrough in the very moment you're being mocked. And sometimes, the one watching silently is the one who will lift you higher than your enemies ever dreamed possible. Every day before the first rooster crowed, Zuleika was already on her feet. While the village was still wrapped in sleep, she stepped into the cool morning mist with a basket on her head and a machete in her hand. Her footsteps were quiet but firm, walking the narrow path to the grove where her late mother used to take her as a little girl. She remembered those early lessons, how to spot the ripe palm fruits, how to twist and cut them down without wasting a bunch. Now it was her daily routine. She climbed, harvested, and carried heavy loads back home without complaint. She didn't wait for help. She was the help. Back in her small compound, Zuleika worked like clockwork. She lit a fire, boiled the palm fruits in an old drum, then began the hard part, pounding and pressing them to extract the oil. The process was messy. Her hands and arms were often stained red for days. Her clothes smelled of burnt husks and hot oil, but she didn't mind. That red oil fed her, paid for her siblings' school books, and kept a roof over their heads. It wasn't just oil, it was her dignity. Still, people talked. Some of the young men would laugh when she walked past. Women whispered that she was too bush, that no serious man would marry someone whose hands looked like a laborer's. Even some of the market women mocked her behind her back, calling her oil girl like it was an insult. But Zuleika never responded. She greeted them with a smile, placed her bottles of oil neatly on her mat, and focused on her customers. Sometimes she felt the sting of their words, but she refused to carry bitterness in her heart. Her work was honest, her money was clean, and deep inside, she believed something good would come out of all her effort one day. Even if no one saw her struggle now, she knew God did, and that was enough to keep her moving, day after day, bottle after bottle, smile after smile. Because to Zuleika, her hustle wasn't just survival, it was purpose. One hot afternoon, the peaceful rhythm of the village was suddenly broken. A loud engine roared down the dusty road, music blaring through the windows of a shiny black SUV. Heads turned, children ran behind it, cheering. It wasn't often they saw such a fancy car here. When it stopped right at the edge of the market, the door opened and out stepped Amara. She wore golden heels that didn't even touch the ground properly. Her dress was so bright and tight, it shimmered in the sun. Her face was painted with heavy makeup, eyebrows sharp, lips red, and her nails looked like they belonged in a fashion magazine. 2 expensive phones were in her hand, and she kept switching between them, taking selfies and talking loudly. The villagers gathered quickly, whispering. Some were impressed, others just watched, quiet and curious. Amara looked around like she owned the place, then spotted a familiar face at the far end of the market. Zuleika, standing quietly behind her little mat of palm oil bottles. Her dress simple, her hands still stained with oil. She didn't run to hug her cousin, she just smiled gently, like she always did. But Amara walked straight toward her, heels clicking on the rough ground, and burst into loud laughter. "Zuleika!" she shouted, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Is this really what you've become? Selling palm oil like one old village auntie?" She laughed again, flipping her hair as people stared. Zuleika said nothing. Her fingers gripped the edge of her mat tightly, but her eyes stayed calm. Amara wasn't finished. "Look at your hands, and your dress. Are you even wearing shoes? Wow, I knew the village was hard, but this?" She raised her phone and started filming. "Guys, meet my cousin, the queen of palm oil." She twirled dramatically. "Meanwhile, I just came from a spa in Lagos. Life is levels." A few people chuckled nervously. Others looked away, embarrassed for Zuleika. But she didn't say a word. She kept standing, her head high, her pride unshaken. Inside, her heart was heavy, but she wouldn't let Amara's cruel words break her. She knew who she was, and deep down, she believed her story wasn't finished yet. Amara wasn't satisfied with just mocking Zuleika in person. She wanted everyone to laugh, too. With one hand holding her latest iPhone, she turned on the camera and started recording. "Look at this, guys," she said, with a mocking smile, pointing the lens straight at Zuleika. "This is my cousin, Zuleika. Look at her hands, red and rough from palm oil. And that dress? My house girl in the city wouldn't even wear that to sleep." Zuleika stood frozen, her face calm, but her heart sinking. She wasn't used to cameras. She wasn't used to shame being broadcast, but she stayed quiet. Amara kept zooming in, pointing at Zuleika's feet, her oil bottles, even the mat she sat on. "This is what happens when you refuse to leave the village. You become a real-life bush princess." She laughed, then added a filter and posted it with the caption, "Palm oil royalty, village vibes only." The video spread like wildfire. By evening, it was everywhere, on WhatsApp groups, Facebook pages, even small gossip blogs. People in nearby towns started laughing too. Some made memes. Others added music to the video, turning it into a joke. In the market, people began to stare at Zuleika more boldly. Children whispered and giggled when they walked past her. Even customers avoided her stall, not wanting to be seen near the internet joke. It felt like a storm had hit her world. Zuleika didn't have internet or fancy gadgets, but even she felt the weight of what had happened. Neighbors who used to smile now gave her awkward glances. Old friends crossed the road to avoid her. Her little brothers came home from school, saying their classmates had shown them the video, laughing about the palm oil girl. Zuleika cried quietly that night, not because she was ashamed of her work, but because the whole world had been invited to laugh at her pain. All the years of struggle, all the quiet mornings and sleepless nights, all reduced to a cruel clip for entertainment. Still, through the tears, she reminded herself of something her mother once told her. People will laugh when they don't understand your journey, but one day they'll wish they had your courage. While most people were laughing and whispering, one man watched quietly from a distance. Chief Kwabena, a well-dressed elder with kind eyes and quiet authority, had stopped by the market with his driver to buy some local produce. He wasn't from the village, but he enjoyed traveling to smaller towns to find real, untouched products. That day, he had sent his driver ahead, but was drawn by the crowd around Zuleika's stall. He noticed the flashy woman with the phone, laughing and pointing. He saw the villagers staring, and then he saw her, Zuleika, standing still, proud, calm, even as the cameras mocked her. Something about her presence struck him. She didn't shout, she didn't beg, she didn't run. She stood firm like a tree that had learned how to bend with the wind, but never break. After Amara walked off, satisfied with her little show, Chief Kwabena stepped forward. His voice was warm but firm. "Young lady," he said gently, "do you still have palm oil for sale?" Zuleika blinked, surprised. She nodded. "Yes, sir, I do." He picked up a bottle, examined the thickness and color, and smiled. "This is good quality. Did you make it yourself?" "Yes, sir," she answered, trying to wipe her stained hands on her wrapper politely. "I harvest the fruit, boil, press, and bottle it myself." Every step he raised an eyebrow. "Every step? Alone?" She nodded again. "Yes, sir, I do it daily." "Do you sell only in this village?" "For now, yes, but some women from nearby towns come to buy in bulk. I'm hoping to grow slowly." Chief Kwabena chuckled softly. "And with all that, you still stand here with your head held high, even after what just happened." Zuleika gave a faint smile. "Sir, people can laugh, but hard work never shames me. My hands may be stained, but my heart is clean." That answer made him pause. There was something powerful in her words, something rare. He nodded with respect, then bought every bottle on her mat. "I like people who build with their hands," he said. "There's honesty in it. Keep going." As he walked away, Zuleika stared at the empty mat, her heart pounding. She didn't know who he really was yet, but something inside told her that this small moment had just changed everything. 3 days passed since the market incident. Zuleika had returned to her routine, waking up early, harvesting palm fruit, and processing it with care. She didn't have time to think about the video anymore. People were still whispering, but she focused on her work like always. Then one morning, while sorting her empty bottles behind her little stall, a young boy ran up to her, panting and excited. "Auntie Zuleika, someone left this for you at Mama Nia's shop," he said, handing her a brown envelope with her name written in bold letters. Her hands trembled a little as she opened it. Inside was a formal invitation printed on thick paper. "You are invited to the Young African Entrepreneurs Conference in Accra, Ghana. All travel and accommodation expenses will be covered. You have been selected as a featured speaker. Please confirm attendance within 48 hours. Zuleika blinked hard. Her first thought was that it had to be a joke. Maybe another prank, like the video. Who would invite someone like her to a conference, let alone ask her to speak? She'd never even been out of the village, let alone to a big city like Accra. Her heart pounded. She showed the letter to Mama Nia, who read it twice and looked at her with wide eyes. "This is no joke, Zuleika," Mama Nia said, gripping her arm. "Look at the seal, and that's Chief Kwabena's foundation logo. He's a real person, a powerful one." Zuleika still wasn't sure. What would she even say at a conference? What would she wear? Would people laugh at her the way they did in the market? But something deep in her spirit told her not to ignore this. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something bigger. So she packed her simple clothes, tied her hair in a neat scarf, and boarded the bus to Accra. Her heart beat fast the entire journey. She didn't know what was waiting for her, but she knew she couldn't turn away from this chance. Not after everything she'd been through. She sat by the window, watching the road stretch out ahead, whispering a quiet prayer that whatever came next, she would walk into it with courage. The conference hall was larger than anything Zuleika had ever seen. Bright lights, rows of chairs, men and women dressed in sharp suits and elegant dresses. It felt like another world. She sat quietly in the third row, unsure of what to do or where to look. Her simple dress made her feel out of place, but she kept her back straight and her eyes forward. She had come this far. She wouldn't shrink now. When the announcer stepped up to the podium and introduced the keynote speaker, a hush fell over the crowd. Please welcome Chief Kwabena, founder of the Kwabena Development Foundation. The room erupted in applause as Chief Kwabena took the stage. He stood tall in his traditional agbada, radiating confidence and grace. But what he said next made Zuleika sit up straighter. Before I begin my speech, he said, I want to tell you a story about a young woman I met just a few days ago in a quiet village market. Zuleika's breath caught in her throat. I saw her being mocked, laughed at, filmed without permission. She stood there selling palm oil with hands stained from honest labor. She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She simply answered my questions with humility and strength. That young woman reminded me what true entrepreneurship looks like. Not just ambition, but integrity. He paused, scanning the audience. Her name is Zuleika. Gasps filled the room as people turned to look at her. Zuleika froze, heart pounding. Then Chief Kwabena smiled and continued. She inspired me, and because of her, I've decided to make a personal investment. Today I'm announcing a multi-million naira grant and mentorship program for Zuleika's palm oil business, not just to grow her brand, but to build a training center in her village so more women like her can rise. The crowd erupted in applause. People stood, cameras flashed, and Zuleika, she sat there, stunned, tears quietly falling down her cheeks. From being mocked in the market to being honored before a room full of leaders, this was no longer just about palm oil. It was about her voice, her work, her dignity being seen. And finally, the world was listening. After the conference, Zuleika's life changed completely. Within a week, Chief Kwabena's team contacted her and began working with her on a business plan. They didn't just throw money at her, they taught her how to grow, how to build something lasting. With their mentorship and support, Zuleika began to dream bigger than ever before. She returned to her village with hope in her eyes and fire in her heart. Construction started just 3 months later. A proper palm oil processing plant rose from the same dusty ground where she once boiled palm fruits with her bare hands. The villagers watched in awe. People who once mocked her now asked how they could help. And Zuleika didn't keep the opportunity to herself. She hired local women, widows, single mothers, girls who had dropped out of school, and trained them. She taught them not just how to work, but how to lead, how to believe in themselves. She named her brand Zuli Gold. It was more than just oil. It was her pride, her story, her gold. The logo was simple, 2 stained hands forming a heart. People connected with it. Orders started coming in from nearby towns, then across the country. Soon, supermarkets were stocking Zuli Gold bottles. It wasn't just a village product anymore. It was a national success story. TV crews came to interview her. Magazines featured her on their covers. People couldn't believe the same woman who was once mocked for her rough dress was now running a successful business, employing over 50 women and changing lives in her community. But through it all, Zuleika remained humble. She still woke up early. She still walked through the plant every morning, greeting each worker by name. She hadn't forgotten where she came from. Every drop of palm oil reminded her of the days she had to carry heavy baskets alone, mocked and ignored. Now, those same hands were building an empire, and in the middle of it all, the women she trained stood taller, smiled wider, and believed more. Because Zuleika had shown them, it's not about where you start, it's about refusing to give up. And sometimes, gold comes from the roughest hands. Months passed, and the world kept spinning, while Zuleika's business grew stronger and her name spread far and wide. Amara's fame faded just as fast as it had come. The video that once brought her thousands of likes and followers became old news. Brands stopped calling. Her lifestyle of parties, clothes, and attention dried up. And soon, the money ran out. Her expensive phone was sold, the car repossessed. She found herself alone in the same village she once mocked. She returned quietly. No flashy clothes, no makeup, just tired eyes and a heart full of regret. People whispered when they saw her. Some even laughed behind her back, just as she once did to Zuleika. The shame stung, but hunger stung worse. One morning, with trembling hands, she walked to Zuleika's new office, not knowing what to expect. Zuleika was inside, reviewing documents, her stained hands now leading an empire. When she looked up and saw Amara, their eyes locked. For a long second, silence filled the room. Then Amara broke down. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I was proud and foolish. I didn't know what I was doing." Zuleika listened quietly. She remembered the pain, the laughter, the mocking in the market. But more than that, she remembered the hard days, the lonely ones, the moments no one believed in her, and she knew how heavy shame could be. She stood up, walked around the desk, and gently took Amara's hand. "I forgive you," she said softly. "We all fall. What matters is what we do after. Come, let me show you where you can start again." Zuleika offered her a job, not a fancy one, but an honest one. Amara started in packaging, learning the value of work from the ground up, and slowly, her pride melted into humility. She saw how Zuleika treated her workers, with kindness, respect, and fairness. In time, the cousins sat side by side again, not as rivals, but as women who had learned different lessons in different ways. One had chased fame and lost her way. The other had embraced hard work and found gold. And now, together, they were rewriting their story, with humility, grace, and a future built on something far stronger than likes. Zuleika sat in a quiet room, the golden light of the evening sun brushing her face. A small camera stood in front of her. Nothing fancy, just her assistant holding a phone. But her words, they would travel farther than she ever imagined. She looked into the lens, her voice calm but firm, and began to tell her story. She didn't shout, she didn't cry, she just spoke the truth, from a place deep in her heart. "I was once laughed at for selling palm oil. People looked at my stained hands and dirty clothes, and thought I was beneath them. Even my own cousin mocked me in front of a crowd, just because I chose to work with my hands instead of chasing likes. But I kept going, because dignity lives in honest work." She paused, her eyes glinting with strength. "Never mock someone's hustle. You never know who's watching." The very moment I was being insulted, a billionaire stood nearby. He didn't see dirt. He saw dedication. He saw someone who believed in their work, and that moment changed my life forever. She smiled gently. "Today, I run a company. I employ the same kind of women who were once ignored. And we don't just make palm oil. We make pride, purpose, and progress. I'm telling you this not to brag, but to remind you, everyone starts somewhere. So the next time you see someone working hard under the sun, don't laugh. Don't look down on them. You never know what seed they're planting." The video ended with Zuleika simply walking through her factory, waving at women packing bottles, checking machines, smiling with confidence. No music, no filters, just raw, powerful truth. Within hours, the video began to spread like wildfire. People from across the continent shared it. Influencers reposted it, with tears in their captions. The hashtag #NeverMockTheHustle started trending. By the end of the week, the video had crossed 10 million views. People called Zuleika an icon of strength, a voice of the unheard. And in villages everywhere, girls who once hid their stained hands began to raise them with pride. Because Zuleika had reminded them that hustle is not shameful, it's powerful, and someone is always watching. Like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring African stories. Remember, never mock someone's hustle. Hard work always speaks louder than pride.